welcome to the deep dive. So the idea here is simple. You send us stuff, you're trying to wrap your head around, articles, videos, whatever, and we dig in.
Yeah, we try to pull out the key takeaways, make it efficient, so you get the gist without drowning in information.
Exactly. And this time, it's for you, the listener who sent this in. We're looking at a YouTube transcript titled Bhagavad Gita, as it actually is Sanatana, Dharma, Sri Shankara, Bhagavad and Bhakti Sringeri. It's from the Aham Brahmasmi channel.
And what jumps out immediately is the context. The video really stresses how much importance the Jagadguru's Sanatanam of the Sringeri Sharadapitham is placing on the Bhagavad Gita right now.
Ah, okay. So it's not just a general recommendation.
No, not at all. It's linked to, specific things happening like the Savarati celebrations for the 75th birth anniversary of Parvati Mahaswamigal, and also this ongoing push for daily recitation, the daily parayana of the Gita.
Right. So it's very much in the spotlight.
Definitely front and center.
Okay, so let's get into it. The video seems to ask some pretty big questions, like why this scripture? Why the Bhagavad Gita specifically? There are so many others, right?
Exactly. What makes it so special that it's getting this focus? And crucially, what is the Acharya expecting people, the listeners, to actually take away from it?
That's what we're aiming to unpack here. So first up, why is it considered so special?
Well, from the perspective highlighted, particularly Bhagavad Pada's, the main thing is pretty direct. It was spoken by Bhagavan, by Lord Krishna himself.
Sorry,
The ultimate source. And on top of that, it was compiled by Vyasa. So you have these two huge authorities involved right from the start.
That makes sense. Words straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And the video also says it's like the essence of all the Shastras.
Yeah, that's a key point. Vyasa basically provided this comprehensive summary, like distilling this vast ocean of knowledge into about 700 verses.
So for the listener, it's like incredible efficiency, the core wisdom in one place.
Precisely. But, and this is really interesting, it's not always straightforward. The meaning isn't just lying there on the surface for every verse.
I'll go.
The video points out that some verses, if you just read them in isolation, might even seem to contradict each other.
Ah, okay.
And that's why commentary, a bhasha, is considered so vital to get to the real tattva, the underlying truth, the intended meaning.
Right. And that brings in Bhagavad Pada.
Exactly. The lineage presented is sort of, Bhagavan spoke it, Vyasa wrote it, and then Bhagavad Pada provides the key interpretation, the bhasha.
Suggesting a kind of unbroken chain of understanding, aiming for the original meaning.
That's the implication, yeah. There's this nice analogy used, too. The Vedas are like a cow full of nourishment, but the Gita is the milk, already drawn, ready for us to, well, consume. It's presented as a more direct path to the highest goal.
And that highest goal, according to the source, is jnana, that deep knowledge or wisdom from the Upanishads.
Yes, exactly. Jnana. The Gita isn't just stories or ethics. It's shown as a primary route to that ultimate Upanishadic understanding.
And this focus isn't new. You mentioned the recitation program.
Right. The Gita Shankara program encouraging memorization and recitation of all 18 chapters for 18 years. That number 18 itself, it keeps popping up.
Yeah, 18 chapters in the Gita, 18 sections or parvas in the Mahabharata where it's found.
Feels intentional, doesn't it?
It certainly seems significant. And the Gita's status is further cemented by it being part of the Prasthanatrayi.
The three foundational texts.
Yeah, the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, and the Gita. It's like the philosophical bedrock for much of Indian thought. So for you, the listener, its place there really underlines why it's considered so fundamental.
Now, the video also makes a point that Gita itself isn't just the Bhagavad Gita. It's a type of text.
That's right. It's almost like a genre. You find other Gita's dialogues with profound teachings in the Puranas, even elsewhere in the Mahabharata itself, like the Anugita, the Shiva Gita. Okay, so if there are other Gitas, what makes the Bhagavad Gita stand out? Why this special focus on this one?
Good question. The video tackles this by looking at how Krishna spoke it, or rather the state he was in.
Ah, so it wasn't just regular Krishna talking.
Exactly. The distinction made is crucial. When he delivered the Bhagavad Gita, he wasn't speaking as, Dvagatisha Krishna, the king, the personality we often think of.
He was speaking as
Ishwara, as the supreme being itself. It's presented as a transmission from the absolute reality.
Wow. Okay.
And this is contrasted directly with the Anugita that happens later after the war. Arjuna asks Krishna to repeat the teachings.
And Krishna says?
He basically says he can't quite replicate it. The original Bhagavad Gita was spoken while he was fully established in yoga, a much higher unified state of consciousness, than his everyday awareness.
So the implication for us is that the Bhagavad Gita carries a different, maybe higher level of authority or truth.
That's definitely the suggestion. It wasn't just a person talking, it was the supreme expressing itself through that person.
The video also mentions verses hinting at Krishna's timelessness, right? Like Arjuna questioning how he could have taught Surya ages ago.
Yes, that exchange in chapter 4. And Krishna's own statements about having taught this very knowledge before many times across different births, it reinforces that we're dealing with something beyond the historical individual.
It points towards Krishna as Paramatma, the Supreme Self, being the constant voice throughout the Gita.
Precisely. Which gives the teachings that universal, timeless quality. It's relevant for you now, not just Arjuna then.
Okay, so we've established why it's special. Now, what about the expectation? What are we supposed to get from it? The video focuses on those questions Krishna asks Arjuna at the very end.
Yeah, those are presented as like the ultimate litmus test. He asks Arjuna two things. First, did you listen with Shraddha?
Shraddha meaning focus, attention,
Yeah.
reverence.
All of that. Deep, focused, receptive attention. The video stresses you can't really gain anything meaningful, especially spiritual knowledge, without it. If you're distracted, it just washes over you.
Makes sense. You need to be present. And the second question.
Is your moha removed? Is your delusion gone? That's the core problem the Gita aims to solve.
Moha, delusion.
Yeah.
What exactly is that according to the source?
It's born from ajnana, ignorance. But not just lack of information, it's a fundamental ignorance of our true nature.
Which is?
That we are Brahman, the ultimate reality. Instead, we mistakenly identify with the temporary things, our body, our senses, our thoughts, our mind.
And that mistake leads to problems.
Big problems. It leads to mamkara, this powerful sense of I and mine. My body, my family, my possessions, my ideas.
You see how that works?
And that fuels all our desires, our attachments, our fears. We get caught in the cycle of wanting things, getting them, losing them, suffering because of it. So much of our daily grind is tied up in this, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the goal is to break free from that moha. And Arjuna's answer is key.
His answer is the ideal outcome. Nasta moha smritir labdha. Delusion is destroyed, memory is regained.
Memory of what? Just the verse.
Not just recalling words, it's smriti in a deeper sense, remembering the truth taught by the Shastra, by the Guru. Remembering our true nature. And then, crucially, using our intellect, our buddhi, properly based on that memory.
So you act from that place of regained understanding.
Exactly. The danger highlighted is smrita bhramsha, forgetting the teachings, which leads to buddhinasha, the loss of proper reasoning, discrimination. You lose your way.
So it's not just about knowing, it's about letting that knowledge guide your actions, aligning with Bhagavan's will, Svadharma.
Yes, acting according to your svadharma, your own inherent nature and duty, but informed by this higher understanding, free from the delusion of mamkara.
Which brings us to why it was taught right then on the battlefield, that specific moment.
Right, Arjuna's in this massive crisis. He's supposed to fight. It's his duty as a warrior, his svadharma, but he's facing his own family, his teachers.
He completely loses his nerve, questions the whole point. Even if he wins, what's the reward worth? Kingdom, merit. None of it seems appealing.
Exactly. His mamkara, his attachments, these are my people, is totally overwhelming his sense of duty. The video points out that even worldly rewards or heavenly merit lose their power when that deep delusion takes hold.
So attachment can even blind us to our duty.
It can, and that's where Krishna steps in. His teaching isn't just do your duty because I say so. He explains why. He reveals that performing your svadharma, but with nishkama.
Nishkama. Without desire for the results. Selflessly.
Yes, without selfish attachment to the fruits of the action. When you do that, it doesn't just fulfill your duty, it purifies your mind and leads you on to the Jnana Marga, the path of knowledge.
So selfless action paves the way for wisdom.
Exactly. And that path leads to permanent, unshakable happiness, something far beyond the temporary ups and downs of worldly success or failure.
So nishkama karma and svadharma are like the foundation for jnana.
They're presented as absolutely essential groundwork. The ultimate long-term goal of the Gita is moksha, liberation. But the video also stresses the immediate goal, just starting the practice, starting that sadhana. And the Gita gives this reassurance that no effort on this path is ever wasted, no matter how small your start.
That's quite encouraging.
It is. And practically, for you, the listener, the Gita gives guidance for everyday life. How to act now in your situation while keeping that ultimate goal in view. It's meant to be a practical manual, not just theory.
Okay, now the video shifts focus a bit. talking about the importance of commentary, the Bhashya, and especially Bhagavad-pada's commentary. It acknowledges others existed, right?
Yes, it mentions figures like Sarasvata Muni, Gaudapadacharya, others, acknowledging there were commentaries before Shankara Bhagavad-pada.
But it argues Bhagavad-pada's is somehow different or more accurate.
That's the strong assertion made in the video, reflecting the Acharya's view and Bhagavad-pada's own position. The claim is that earlier commentaries didn't fully capture Bhagavan Krishna's intended meaning.
So what was Bhagavad-pada's specific aim then?
The video states it very clearly. His aim was to explain the Gita as it is, without imposing his own philosophical system onto it, without twisting verses to fit a particular doctrine.
Just revealing what's already there.
Exactly, purely reflecting the inherent meaning. And to back this up, the video cites the Padma Purana.
Oh, what does it say?
It describes a dialogue between Mahavishnu and Lakshmi. Vishnu talks about constantly meditating on one tattva, one single truth, pure without qualities, non-dual.
Okay. And the connection to the Gita.
Vishnu says that very tattva is what Vedavyasa realized after churning the essence of the Vedas and Shastras, and that is what Vyasa enshrined in the Bhagavad Gita.
So the Gita contains this ultimate non-dual truth.
That's the core message highlighted, the truth of the oneness of the Jivatma, individual soul, and Paramatma, supreme soul.
And Bhagavad-pada's Bhashya is key to accessing that.
Yes, the video emphasizes that his commentary brings out this grasya, this comprehensible Suddha Jnana, this pure knowledge directly, without unnecessary complexity or forcing his own conclusions onto the text. It's about clarity for you, the reader.
It mentions a comparison to Melanatha's commentary style.
Yeah, just as an illustration of meticulousness, like Melanatha goes word by word in his commentaries on classical poetry, Bhagavad-pada is shown as being incredibly careful with each word and phrase of the Gita to ensure the meaning is precise.
And this precision is needed because of those apparent contradictions we mentioned earlier.
Exactly. Concepts like karma and akarma, action and inaction, inaction and action. These deep ideas can easily be misunderstood without that careful, context-aware explanation that the Bhashya provides. It helps you navigate the subtleties.
So Bhagavad-pada's commentary isn't just an interpretation. It's presented almost like a necessary lens, a clear mirror to see the Gita's true face.
That's very much the perspective offered. It's positioned as essential to avoid misinterpretations and grasp the depth of Krishna's teaching accurately.
This naturally leads into tackling some common potential misunderstandings, especially around karma and bhakti within Advaita, Bhagavad-pada's philosophy of non-dualism. Does he dismiss karma?
The video explicitly refutes that idea. It stresses that Bhagavad-pada, following the Gita itself, emphasizes Nicha karma are necessary daily duties, and performing all karma with yoga with skill and detachment.
So, saharma, doing your duty, is still crucial.
Absolutely. It's presented as essential for chitta-shuddhi, purifying the mind, which is the necessary preparation for jnana. So your actions matter deeply.
Even Krishna himself talks about acting, right?
Yes, the video points to verses where Bhagavan says even one who has attained realization should act for the sake of guiding others. And Bhagavad-pada's own life, establishing maths, organizing pujas, is shown as an example of tireless, detached action for the world, not for personal gain.
So the key isn't not acting, but how you act, the intention.
Precisely. Karma done for yajna as an offering for a higher purpose, without attachment to the personal results, the fall of that kind of action doesn't bind you, it liberates.
Okay, what about bhakti then? Devotion, how does that fit into non-dualism, where ultimately there's only one reality?
That's a really important clarification the video makes. Bhakti often implies bhajana, worship, which usually requires a distinction, the devotee, bhakta, and the object of devotion, Bhagavan.
Which seems tricky in Advaita if everything is one.
It needs a nuanced understanding. But the video quickly points out that Bhagavad-pada himself composed incredibly powerful stotras, hymns filled with deep devotion, so he clearly wasn't anti-bhakti.
So how is bhakti understood then?
The ultimate bhakti in this framework is described as the merging of the manas, the mind, into Bhagavan. It's that state of complete absorption in and realization of oneness. It might involve external practices, but the pinnacle is that inner union.
So bhakti isn't discarded, it's seen as leading towards jnana.
Exactly. It's often presented as necessary for paratnana, the supreme knowledge.
Yeah.
Devotion prepares the heart and mind for that final realization.
There's that verse, Anyashintainato mam, thinking of me with no other thought.
Yeah.
How does the Bhashya interpret that?
Bhagavad-pada's commentary, according to the video, highlights that no other thought means primarily the absence of seeing oneself as separate from Paramatma. It's about that constant awareness of non-duality.
That helps clear things up. What about the idea of how a jnani acts? If they see everything as one, why would they do anything? Or how does God provide for them?
The explanation given is that while the jnani operates from that state of oneness, not seeking or avoiding, Ishwara, the underlying cosmic intelligence, ensures their needs are met according to their prarabdha, past karma unfolding, and their level of inherent bhakti or connection.
And the verse, Yomam pashyati sarvatra, he who sees me everywhere.
Ah, yes. The video mentions Bhagavad-pada uses grammar, Paninian rules, to interpret the second half, na pranashati, is not lost to me, I am not lost to him. The interpretation emphasized is, I am never not directly perceived by him.
So the jnani has constant direct experience.
Yeah.
Aparaksha anubhava.
Yes, a continuous, immediate awareness of the Atma, the self, as non-separate from the divine.
The video also tackles a potentially confusing verse about worshiping different beings, Vinayakas and Maitras.
Right. It clarifies that in that specific context, Vinayakas likely refers to obstructing forces or difficulties, not necessarily Lord Ganesha in his highest aspect. And Matrices refers to a particular group of potentially troublesome entities, not the universal divine mother principle. Context is key.
So it's not dismissing other forms of worship.
Not entirely. The point made is that even those worshipping other devas are, in essence, worshipping the one Paramatma, perhaps indirectly or unknowingly. They get the results appropriate to that level of understanding and worship.
And not the ultimate result.
But perhaps not the final jnana, the direct realization of oneness, which comes from understanding and worshipping Paramatma directly as the self.
So ultimately, the highest bhakti is jnana.
That's how it's framed. The jnani is dearest to Bhagavan precisely because they see Bhagavan not as someone else out there, but as their own innermost Atma, their true self.
That definition of bhakti in Advaita, culminating in the realization of oneness, is powerful. The salt doll analogy fits well here.
It does. The salt doll, the individual seeker, the devotee, goes to measure the ocean, Brahman, Bhagavan, and in doing so, merges completely, becomes one with it. Bhakti is the journey, jnana is the merging, the destination.
So bhakti leads to jnana, and jnana is the highest bhakti.
You could put it that way, yes. They are deeply interconnected in this view.
Okay, so bringing it back to the present day, the video concludes by emphasizing the Acharya's current instruction.
Yes, the call for daily parayana, the recitation of the Bhagavad Gita, possibly with the bhashya, depending on one's capacity and understanding.
And this is presented as more than just a suggestion.
It's framed as a direct instruction and adesh, and also as a way for disciples to serve the Acharya and connect with this profound teaching directly.
And the goal isn't just rote recitation, is it?
No, definitely not. The hope expressed is that this consistent engagement will lead beyond just saying the words to actually understanding the meaning intellectually, and then, most importantly, implementing those teachings in daily life, integrating the wisdom.
So consistent practice opens the door to deeper understanding and guidance later.
That seems to be the expectation laid out. Start with the parayana, cultivate that connection, and further guidance on the bhashya and deeper practice might follow. It's a path.
And it ends on a hopeful note about achieving realization.
Yes, the aspiration to reach that full understanding and liberation, if not in this life, then in future ones, relying on the grace of Bhagavan and the Guru, the Acharya.
Right. So wrapping this up, this deep dive really highlighted the Gita's immense importance, didn't it? Especially how Bhagavad-pada's commentary is seen as key to unlocking its non-dual essence.
Absolutely, and clarifying how karma and bhakti aren't dismissed, but integrated within that Advaita framework, leading ultimately to jnana, and connecting it all back to the Acharya's guidance for us today.
We really hope this discussion helped clarify the core ideas from that video transcript, cutting through some of the complexity.
Yeah, hopefully giving you, our listeners, a clearer pathway through these profound concepts.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. How might this perspective, seeing the Gita through this lens of Advaita, with bhakti and karma leading to jnana, as revealed by the Pasha, how might that subtly shift how you think about your own daily actions, your own devotion, your own search for understanding?
Something to reflect on. It definitely invites a deeper look, doesn't it? A continued exploration of the Gita itself and maybe diving into those commentaries.